let's just fade out. Great. Thanks, Thad. So we're talking about music and musical instruments. And music's a universal language. Everybody plays music or listens to music throughout the world. I've worked with lots of different cultures, and everyone has a unique instrument, a unique style of music. So Thad and I just did a little blues riff, kind of something that anybody might recognize. And the question becomes, what is music? So music is, I don't know how I define it, the philosophers discuss it, the interplay between sound and silence, a structure between rhythm, harmony, articulation, meter. And so there's lots of different things that can be turned into musical instruments. And what we're going to do today is show you a few of these. Some of them are fairly complex, like these guitars, which at first look simple. Some of them are really simple things that you or your students can make at home. Great thing about doing this at a botanical garden is the connection between plants and music. And at first that really might not seem clear or intuitive, but you'll see it's obvious. So Thad's guitar and my guitar here, we've got temperate species right here, Adirondack spruce from upstate New York probably. We've got ebony from Africa. We've got mahogany for the backs and sides from Central America, West Indian, or not West Indian mahogany, Honduran mahogany. And we have Spanish cedar or mahogany necks right here. So an interplay of plants from all over the world. That's a real problem. This exercise might prove to be not only useful for you guys in learning about instruments, but looking for the next sources of new instruments. Some of these things, some of these woods are no longer available. If you want a Brazilian rosewood guitar, now you have to pay a lot of money for it because Brazilian rosewood isn't available. Mahogany here is on the CITES list. Ebony is on the CITES list. So maybe what you guys will figure out is woods from the garden or from your backyard, or that you pick up at Home Depot or Shell Lumber that you can turn into a musical instrument. Now we have some instruments up here. We can divide instruments up into different classes of instruments. They're fairly simple instruments that we can start with. And these are instruments that there's a technical term for them, idiophones, in which the whole instrument makes a sound. This is a fruit. You thought of a fruit as being an instrument? Now, what aspect of music we can get? We can't get a whole lot on harmony. We can't get a whole lot on the tone, but we can get a nice rhythm on that. Here's another idiophone, the whole body of the instrument from the Chachi in Ecuador. So those are pretty simple things. We have any gourds. We can take a coconut shell. Now we're getting this pitch on that, but if we had different sized gourds, we could change the pitch. So we could get both rhythm, and let's see if this we can take another size gourd and a different pitch. So those are simple. Those are things that are available. There'll be some material that Fairchild can provide you. And there's material that you can find in your backyard. And here's what I guarantee. You guys are going to think of something that blows our minds that we haven't even considered. Now from that kind of instrument, we can go to these stringed instruments. These are called chordophones, in which there is a string that's either plucked. A piano is a chordophone. You realize that? A piano, this violin, and these guitars are all connected to one another. And they're connected in the class of instruments. They're all instruments that are made by sounding a string that's under tension, and the pitch of that is determined by how much tension, the size of the string, and how much tension is on that. But another thing that unites this guitar, this violin, and the best pianos in the world is the spruce right here. So spruce tops have a certain tone. So not only is it their wood, and we can get a different tone from this guitar with a spruce top, mahogany backs and sides. This guitar which has a louder, brighter sound, but perhaps not as penetrating because of its red maple, or sorry, hard maple. We can also look at a guitar think about this. Here's a guitar that's made out of synthetic material, but not entirely. We still have a neck that's made out of wood. So the neck is important in this for transferring the sound from here into the body, into the resonator. So there are those chordophones. And then what else do we have? Well, we have membranophones, instruments that are made with stretched membranes that are struck like drums, or this bodhrán. Right over here we have two drums that were made by the Chachi in lowland Ecuador. This one was made for a garden project in '94. This was actually my birthday present in, 1996 from the Chachis. We have West Indian cedar with a skin head on it that's kept taut with rope. Look at all the plants that go into this. The body is wood, a certain kind of wood. The string is made out of palm fronds. The wedges right here are made out of a third type of wood. And then we have a vine, piquiwa, which is used to hold these in place. So just 4 woods in this what seems to be a simple drum. Now, one of the things we can do, we briefly talked about how woods sound differently. Now, Dad, could you just strum your guitar? What'd you do with your, we'll let Dad bring that over. And these are the identical guitars in construction and size, but I want to hear the difference between that. Go ahead and give me a G chord. Now, look at that. This is all, poor Thad, he's got an old beat up guitar. This is nice and shiny. I'd trade him in a minute for it. Because this has 50 years of aging, which has changed the tone of the wood. So probably for Fairchild Challenge to be really accurate, you're going to have to redo this 50 years from now and see how the instruments have aged and how they sound then. But so the age of the wood is going to determine some of the tonal characteristics. We can demonstrate that with these wood samples that were collected right after Hurricane Andrew. Hurricane Andrew hit the garden very hard. Lots of trees were blown down, so badly damaged that they couldn't be righted. So some clever person in the garden, I don't remember who did this, had wood samples made from all the different woods. And these are great. They're great for teaching, they're great for research. But I thought about, when I was asked to do this, I thought we could use these to demonstrate different tones from different woods. So this is a fig tree. It's not really hardwood. You can see there's a resonance to it, kind of a click sound to it. I can take this royal palm wood. This doesn't really do anything for me. And yet, if we look over here, we can see a marimba, and the keys on the marimba are made from a palm, but it's a much harder palm. Royal palms are pretty soft. So, I don't know, I don't like it. Maybe you guys could do something with it that sounds better. But we could just randomly pull out some different samples of wood. And I hope the audio is good because you can hear that there's different tones for all of those woods. All right, now we have some other kinds of instruments. So we've gone over chordophones, strings under tension. We've gone over membrane-bound instruments. Okay, we've gone over idiophones, which the whole instrument is, and finally we were left with aerophones, instruments in which you blow. These panpipes from the high Andes are fairly simple idiophone, but can make beautiful music, or a flute, or a clarinet. Think about that. You got a clarinet. This is my old clarinet. I haven't played it in years. It's made out of plastic. If it was a good one, it would be made out of Dalbergia, melanoxylon, African blackwood. Except it's a rare and endangered species. You can't get that anymore. In fact, Dalbergia is the same wood that's so valued in guitars, a different species. But even when it's made out of plastic, think about that. I can have a most beautiful guitar in the world. If I don't have a reed or clarinet in the world, if I don't have a reed for it made out of a rhododendronax, plant that grows here in Florida, can't get any sound out of it. So I thought about what different materials can be used to make reeds for different instruments like that. That would be a great little project to see and see how the sound changes. It could be a harmonica, which is an aerophone, a flute, and on and on. So as you can see, you can take a fairly simple, that brought in a leaf sheath. And you know, as this dries out, it's going to make a really nice sound. It can be a great rhythm instrument. The fruits of Royal Poinciana, when they dry, they're going to have loose seeds in them that are going to sound like rattles. There are people I work with in the lowland forests of Amazon who will take leaves of a certain species, only one species, and they make a fan. A shaman makes a fan out of it. And they like it not just because they fan is in their healing process, but because the leaves, when they're dry, they click against each other and they make a rhythmic noise. Have you ever thought about making a musical instrument out of dried leaves? But they're all here. You can make, there's scores of things to make instruments out of. Didgeridoo we have here. Is there anything we haven't talked about? Just simply a fruit. What about using a different thing to strike an instrument just as a tone? I get a different tone from that versus this, partly the way I was holding it. So the world, there's full of things that you guys are going to be able to make instruments out of. What you have to remember, plants are key to virtually every instrument. And even if you're not, if you can't see that plant, you got music, right? You have music to learn from. And the music is printed on paper, which is coming from plants. Plants and musical instruments are intimately connected. So I hope you guys have a good time. I hope you're innovative. I know you'll be innovative. I want to hear something different. I'll hear some things that I had never thought of doing with a plant to make a musical instrument. And this is going to be one of the greatest, and it's going to be a fun project for all of you. Good luck. Thank you.